Hello, everybody. We'll just give people another couple of minutes if they're moving between physical meetings or virtual Teams rooms to join or to go and grab that cup of coffee and a sandwich. People may wish to put their cameras on and just say a quick wave to people. It's nice to see faces appearing. Feels a bit like being back in pandemic days. Oh, this is nice. I'm seeing faces I've not seen for a while. Brilliant. Okay, one more minute and then we will make a start because we have got a busy agenda today. The numbers are still creeping up. We're up to 53. Okay, 55. Right. So, welcome everybody. I think you all know me. For those who are new to the Institute, I'm Sally Sheard and I'm the Executive Dean. Thank you for finding time for this, and we will make this less than an hour. We are now 2 months into the new academic year, and people are well into semester one teaching. It's not that long till Christmas, it's coming around fast. But this we thought would be an appropriate time just to take stock of where we are, because once student numbers have settled down, it then allows us to go away and to look again at the budget that we've been given for running the Institute for this financial year. I think most of you will already know that we had a really challenging time with recruitment for this cycle. The university as a whole experienced some big losses, particularly in those overseas international students, particularly the ones coming from China, to a lesser extent from India, and onto our PGT, our postgraduate taught programs. At university level, we are about 1,500 students short of what we had anticipated. And that means what we had planned for financially. Teaching income is our biggest source of income. And that then has a knock-on effect with our budgets. We then have to align our budgets to cope with that shortfall in the number of overseas international PGT students. Now, as a faculty, we did really well. And as an institute, I was really pleased. And thank you very much to all of the admissions people, anybody involved with admissions who's on this call, because you did a phenomenal job. You really went the extra mile in terms of recruitment, both into the SAPM programs, also into psychology as well, and to things like our Masters of Public Health and MSc in Health Data Science. But the reality is that the university is likely to have a significant deficit in its budget in this year because of that student intake crisis. At the moment, it's looking to be about £20 million short. So I know some of you are sitting there thinking, that doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't matter to me that the university is short of money. But it does, it matters to every one of us. We have ways of managing that. And we are, obviously, we've had an increase in home tuition fees, but it's a very small increase. And it is almost immediately wiped out by things like increases in employer national insurance contributions. So that tiny bit of government good news is not really going to have an impact on our budgets. We know that we are well positioned as an institute. We have put a huge amount of investment in for the last 3 years. So to give you some numbers, from in 2020, 2021, we had, and I'm talking about core funded academic staff here, not research funded staff. We had 192 core academic staff. We now have 216. And in terms of professional services, we have grown. We've gone from 62 professional services staff to 90. That is, in total, a 21% increase in our staff numbers. And that is excluding the growth that we've seen in research staff. Thank you, everybody, because that's brilliant news. However, our student numbers have not gone up to the same extent. So we have increased our intakes, for example, in undergraduate psychology. We now have, across the institute, an extra 461 students since 2020. But that income doesn't cover those extra staff, core staff costs. So we have to do more with that investment that we've had. We've really now got to make it pay for us. The university, as you will have seen, particularly those of you who are in management positions, all have budget cost centres to manage. The university now has a strategy for controlling costs. It's things like reviewing vacancies. Do we really need to replace that post? It's reviewing budgets for catering, for travel. It's making sure that we have ways. Sophie, I'll come to your question at the end. We've got Q&A coming. Okay, good. It's making sure that all of us play our part. It's a bit like advert. Every little helps. Even small savings on things like catering cumulatively will have a benefit for the university. We need to work more efficiently together, particularly on things like teaching. We've got huge amounts of expertise across the institute. We don't always make the best use of that. And Louise is going to talk a little bit in a moment about the summative, how we know what people are teaching, where they're teaching. And then we've got a video from Paul Christensen about how we're doing a teach across strategy to make better use of that talent that we know we have. We're developing new programs. We have 6 new PGT programs that are being developed for entry either in 2026 or 2027. We have got research growth. We've got a fantastic portfolio of research activity. Lots of it is at the smaller end of the scale. It's individual small awards to individual people. What we need to do now collectively is to shift the dial to more genuine team science, going for the larger awards. That might not be every year. We might be building towards big things every 2 or 3 years. People might be worried. I want to have a research award in my name. We need to give you the reassurance that it does not matter whether you are a PI or a CI. What matters is that you are research active. And if you are a core member of academic staff, T&R in particular, that you are actively trying to raise some income to support your research. How are we going to do these strategic changes? A lot of it is about improved decision making at all levels, from individuals in terms of individual work plan, better line management, and we have just started training for line management. Anyone who has line management responsibility now in the institute is obliged to do a training course, and that has been enormously successful, the ones who've been on it so far. We have to make better use of our resources, and that's not just money, but it's our talent as well. And it's about making sure that where we can, we maintain the support and the career development resources, particularly for early career academics and for our research only staff who work on a contractual basis. There was a brilliant survey that was done recently that Jeanette Greenall organised for research only staff, and I was quite shocked by some of the comments that came back through that. We're going to go out again and now do a survey of line managers for research only staff to see how we can address some of those issues. So I'm not going to talk any longer because we've got some presentations coming up, but just in summary, I'd like to, please can I assure you, the university is in a reasonable position financially. We are being careful. We have to be prudent in this financial year and probably the next financial year until we get those new programs online and we can begin to build back some of those numbers in overseas international students who come to us for postgraduate study. That takes time to do. So thank you for your understanding while we do this. We are very fortunate compared to a number of other Russell Group universities. And it's good to remind ourselves of that and to try to focus on what little positive bits of news we can. So I'm going to now hand over to Louise Armand, our education lead.
Good afternoon, everybody. Those of you who don't know me, I'm as Sally said, the Institute Education Lead. So I'm just going to share my screen. Give me a second, a minute. Can everyone see that? Sally, can you give me a thumbs up because I can see you in my screen? You're the only one I can see. Okay, so I'm just going to give you an update on portfolio.
Louise, I've lost your sound. Is it just me?
I've lost the sound as well.
Okay.
I pressed my thing on here, a lent on it. Thanks, Sally. All right, let's try again. Okay, so I'll start again without pressing my mute button. So here's a short update on portfolio planning and Simitive, which is the computer system, the database system that the university has purchased to do this. So departments historically have always collected some form of data about academics' work, but this has differed vastly across the university and the faculty. So what this portfolio planning framework designs to do, it's been created to help with planning and recording an academic's portfolio of work, to ensure that the distribution of work is fair and reasonable, both within and across academic teams. So this is really important. This isn't a workload model. This isn't about staff having to get up to the 1,650 hours. This is around us being able to measure, to record what an academic is doing, so that heads of departments and deans and program teams can distribute work fairly. And that's all it is trying to think about it as in, it's not about people trying to get to the 1650. It's about making sure that we have as much recorded as we can, so that when work is allocated, it goes to the people that have more capacity than other people. So think of it as almost a reserve bench. So when a job comes in or a new program has to be developed or a new module, the head of department or the team would go to those people that have the more capacity than other people. That doesn't mean to say that those people aren't doing lots of work. It just means that in comparison to others, they have more capacity. So it's about the distribution of work. It's also about recognizing when people are doing too much and distributing work more fairly across academic teams, and also recognizing that different academic departments might have different portfolios of work, and how we can do this links into Paul's teacher cross strategy that we're going to show a video in a minute. This portfolio planning framework supports two of the university's priorities. The first one is around achieving an Athena Swan Gold Award, and the second one is around responding to staff concerns about workload that were highlighted in the staff surveys. If people want more information about this framework and FAQ guides, you need to go to the Education Director Internet. So I'm just going to show it here so you know what it looks like. So this is within the Health and Sciences Life Sciences intranet, you have the Education Directorate and then portfolio planning. So within here, you've got video guides, you've got the framework terms of references, tariffs and glossaries, how-to videos. I'm just going to shut that. So as you know, we started this process a few years back, and we've been able to, it's very much an iterative process, but we were really pleased to say that in 23-24, engagement within IPH was 65.8% of academic staff engaged in the summative process. So this means when somebody gets their summative data, they get an email through to say that their portfolio is ready for viewing. And then when you go into the system, you can engage with the process. Basically, this is what this measurement is looking at. So you can see for health and life sciences, which is the faculty that was piloting summative, engagement was only 54%, but here at IPH it's been great to see 65.8. It is just to note, we should just note that primary care and mental health is lower. The reason being is because the doctorate in clinical psychology program is going through a full revalidation and modularization process. We don't include any data about declin at the minute, but we're going to be sorting that over the next 12 months. So that's why theirs is slightly lower than others. This next figure is once you've gone in and engaged with the summative, your summative portfolio, you can choose to either accept or reject the information which has been given to you. So again, it's really positive to see that in IPH, our acceptance rates of people who do engage with the summative was 71%. And that's testament to the staff, the heads of departments, and also our data administrator, Emma Ferris. As you can see in HLS, the acceptance rate was only 63. But you can see there was great variation within the departments, and that is something that we need to address moving forwards. So these were common reasons why people were rejecting their portfolio. So the first one was around incorrect HR information. So this could be that they had recently had a promotion and that wasn't recorded, or that they were wrongly listed as TNS when they should have been TNR, etc. That is very easy to address, and Emma, as the data administrator, can get information from core and get that sorted easily. There are also a number of people were raising queries and around the percentage split of time into the different buckets: teaching, research, and leadership. The reason for this is that summative standardizes these splits. So in summative, TNR staff would have a split of 40% teaching, 40% research, and 20% leadership, whilst TNS staff have 60% teaching, 20% research and scholarly activity, and 20% leadership. That is standardized. It doesn't mean anything for what data it goes in the next stage when you look at your individual profile. It just appears on that first front page, but it doesn't actually mean anything for your data. This is a standardized pathway split that's been entered into summative. It could be that staff disagreed with a particular tariff, so they felt that the tariff they'd been awarded for a role or an activity wasn't correct. Now, there is a process in place to deal with this, so any queries that are around tariffs should be taken to your department education lead, and then they will bring them through the education committee. We have to ensure that tariffs are consistent across departments wherever possible. Also, we have to ensure that our tariffs are consistent across the faculty wherever possible. So there is a governance structure in place for agreeing tariffs. We can't have tariffs in one department being different from another if there's no reason why that is. A lot of staff were querying the fact that research activity wasn't included. We are waiting on Central University and faculty to make a decision about how research activity is going to be tariffed. This is because it's going to be linked in with the new contributions framework, and also the hope is that this summative will replace the TAS returns. So we're just waiting on a central decision from Anthony Hollander and Claire Ayres around what we're going to do around in summative around research activity. So at the moment, other than PGR supervision and leadership roles, the research activity is not included. Also, a large number of people were looking at the incorrect year. So they were making queries or rejecting data from 22-23 year, when actually it had been updated for 23-24. So you have to make sure that you check the correct year. This is just to show you the complexity of Emma's job as the data administrator in IPH for summative. So she has to collect all this information from each of the departments and enter it before each of the different publications. So where are we at plans for this year? So for semester one, what we're doing is currently heads of departments and deans and education leads are confirming leadership roles for 24-25. Then we'll move on to teaching and assessment data. So Emma Ferris will be getting in touch with program directors, module coordinators, theme leads to confirm staff's teaching and assessment allocations for semester one. So if Emma does get in touch with you, please engage with Emma, because if you don't tell her the data, she can't enter it. For psychology, health data science and public health, information is going to be collected from the timetabling system. So you need to ensure that information for semester 1 is correct. The deadline for providing this information to Emma is mid-February. They will then allow 2 weeks of review time for heads and deans to review the data, and all of the semester 1. So what's going to be released on the 11th of March is going to be your teaching, assessment and supervision for semester 1, any information about your academic advisees, your leadership and admin roles, and your PGR supervision. For plans for semester 2 is that Emma will get in touch with the relevant semester 2 module coordinators to confirm teaching and assessment allocations. Again, we'll be using the timetabling system, so it's really important this information is correct. Again, heads and deans will be asked to review that data before the release on the 1st of July. In this semester 2 release, you'll have the teaching, assessment and supervision for semester 2 included as well. You'll also be included for the first time your IPATs, so the number of IPATs that you do, the number of PhD examining that you do. This is for internal examining only. Any amendments that have been made to your PGR supervision, and any amendments that have been based on the queries that you've raised after the semester 1 release, if that is possible. The key take-home message is, as staff, if you don't engage with summative process, we won't know where the gaps are. So until you tell us that things are missing, we can't address them in the system. And this is very much a long-term project, and we're evolving every year. It'll get better and better, but it does rely on us knowing where the gaps are. So please, if Emma or myself get in touch with you, then please do engage with the summative system. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, Louise. That was a really helpful overview, and I hope people will engage with this process. Data in is only as good as, well, data out is only as good as the data in. We've now got a very short video from Paul Christensen, but I'm conscious of time. I think, how long is Paul's video? 7 minutes. I'm wondering, actually, Tom, do you think we should maybe pause this, seeing as we've not got Paul here to take questions, and move to Gail, so that we have, I want to leave sufficient time at the end for Q&As, because I've already had one person want to ask a question. I think we might just make the decision to skip this. And Gail, could we move to you, please? So Gail Brewer, everyone, Professor Gail Brewer is our EDIW lead for the Institute. Gail has done a phenomenal job on leading us through the Athena Swan application, and we thought it would be really nice for you to hear some of the achievements that we have put within that application. Gail, over to you.
Thank you, Sally. So yes, I'm going to give you a little bit of the background of the Athena Swan application, discuss some of the priorities that we've identified in the action plan, and then basically outline some of the next steps. So there. So after the faculty restructure, there was an interim award for the whole faculty, a silver award, on the condition, obviously, that each institute would then submit a new application, which we each did in September this year. So we submitted a new silver application, which is being reviewed this month, and we should have the decision early December. So for a silver application, there are 5 sections, each rated 1 to 4, and 3 potential overall outcomes. We can have an award immediately if we achieve a 3 or more in each of the 5 areas. There's an award with conditions if we receive a 2 for up to 2 of the criteria, and then we have 8 weeks to address that. Or we can be awarded with revisions, where we have either a 1 for any 1 criteria, or an award of 2 for 3 or more, and then we have 6 months to address that feedback. So a core part of the application is obviously identifying an action plan going forward. And I fully appreciate that people have mixed feelings sometimes about charter programs, but they do give us a really important opportunity to be able to review our data, to examine the institute and each individual department, and then develop an action plan for moving forward. So the first priority of the action plan going forward focuses on the data and evidence quality, and Louise has already touched on some of the issues associated with the importance of accurate data. And these are the core areas that we have identified, each of which will have a number of actions associated with it. So part of the Athena Swan application is a culture survey that you might have recalled taking part in, as well as focus groups, etc. We did have a relatively low engagement, and we'd like to improve that going forward. And we'll be taking updates from the staff survey, etc., to supplement that. So we'll be looking at a whole range of different data moving forward and how to improve the accuracy there. Secondly, we have been able to look at data intersectionality in quite some depth, albeit sometimes we're able to do that at departmental or institute level. Other times we have to look at faculty level data, obviously to preserve anonymity. And there are a number of actions here focused both on the student and the staff experience. So looking at areas associated with bullying and harassment, student aspiration, continuing our work on decolonising the curriculum, etc. And resources have already been allocated to developing training in some of these areas. The third area is around belongingness, well-being and inclusion. So we've already started work looking at some of the issues that our PGR students experience to inform our actions going forward and how we can better support them. Clearly for our institute, we have a number of students on placement, and we want to ensure that that is a positive experience. Of course, looking at the distribution, etc., of staff workload and experiences of that, as well as particular initiatives to support the experiences of researchers. We have a priority area associated with recruitment, attainment and progression. And clearly there is already some very positive work going on to support widening participation, but we wish to extend that further. And there are a number of opportunities to work across departments or schools, or to put on activities shared with other institutes, and some of those have been particularly successful. The next one is around training and development. And we recognise, for example, that there is some really good practice that's taking place within the institute, but not necessarily across the whole of the institute. So where, for example, we've had really good examples of LGBTQ+ training, we want to ensure that that is available across the whole institute and everybody can benefit from that. We've already started work on improving support for PS staff in terms of the network that has been set up. And there are, of course, activities within this action plan that we think will be real markers of good practice that we will be able to showcase and be a core part of our future submission, where we hope to apply for gold. And our next steps really are to transition from the self-assessment team, which focuses on reviewing the data and putting together the action plan, to now the Athena Swan Action Group, which focuses on implementation of this action group, their action plan, and establishing working groups that will support each of these priorities. I would like to ask, if people are working in these particular areas, then please do share your good practice with us. Often there is some excellent work going on across the Institute that we're not aware of, and it's really helpful if you can take the opportunity to share that with us, and we can hopefully build on it. And it's of course benefit to the Institute, and it's of benefit for the individual practitioners who can show the impact of the initiatives that they've developed. We will be incorporating the feedback that we get next month from Athena Swan, and of course we'll be able to look at the university-wide staff survey when it's made available to us. And as you'll have seen from the whistle-stop tour through the priorities, we do have a focus moving forward on intersectionality. And there will be an advertisement going out next week for an Institute Race Equality representative. Now, there will be fewer responsibilities or actions in terms of the time allocation associated with that compared to the Athena Swan role, because it's a university award that's created and a faculty level action plan. But please do look out for that and approach me if you have any questions or would like to discuss before putting an action plan together, an application together. And I wanted to just flag up the EDIW leads that are associated with each of the departments, and also the link to the Institute EDIW website. So Heather Maguire in particular has done a lot of work putting that together. There's a huge amount of information there in terms of resources of benefit to staff and students, information around funding to support projects, and we'd like moving forward to use that site to showcase some of the really great practice that people are engaging with across the Institute. So I'm happy to take any questions when we get to that point, but thank you for all engaging with the process where people have responded to our queries, etc. And please, continue to reach out and share the information that you have.
Thank you very much, Gail. And on behalf of the Institute, thank you, because it's been wonderful to see us pull together such a strong Athena Swan application, and we really couldn't have done it without your leadership on that. So fingers crossed for the result coming. So we're going to move now to Tom West, who's Head of Operations for the Institute. And Tom's going to share some updates on spaces and communications, and no doubt other things as well. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Sally. Just a very quick update from me this time for everyone, just to flag a couple of things which are important for people to be aware of now that we have more people out on and around campus. So you will have seen a few updates around increased vigilance and security when you're on campus. The Safe Zone app is available for all staff and students to download. I've got it on my phone. It's relatively easy to use for once, which is quite nice. And the check-in feature is particularly helpful, obviously, as it's darker and we've got people working sort of into the evenings. That's really important that we're using that. So we've also updated, we've done a lot of work on our staff intranet pages. So if you go onto the IPH intranet under support and PS support, there's now a lot more information there. So we have tabs for all of our professional service teams. So you can click on one of the teams, find out who's in the team, what they do, who to contact, and links to useful support documents as well. And we've updated recently our health and safety information. So again, you can find out any information about how to report a job that you flagged, or any of our health and safety training or processes. They should all be available on the intranet as well. And following on from Gail's talk, we've updated the EDI pages as well, so there's a lot more information there on our staff intranet, and you can access the usual things like room bookings, research support, PGR support, things like that as well. So so not an awful lot that's new, but it's just a reminder that we have invested significantly in quite a lot of our spaces. So as you're on campus, please make use of the flexible spaces we've got, meeting rooms and social spaces as well. If you have any issues, then go back through those pages to get support from the relevant professional service team. And I think that's it for me, unless we obviously have some questions. So feel free to put something in the chat and I can go in and have a look and respond to anything.
Thank you very much, Tom. And can I just sort of make you, aware that we have put a lot of effort into getting the good social spaces, good working conditions. So it would be really great to see people making more use of those. And there'll be more comms coming, I think, soon about that. So this is now your opportunity if you'd like to ask us any questions. I can see, Sophie, you had your hand up earlier and you put the question in the chat about my numbers. That is actual posts as far as I understand, but I will go back and check that number with faculty. But as Tom says in his reply, we have had an increase both in the numbers of staff and in the overall FTE since 2020, 2021. We were really quite good as an institute. We put in a lot of business cases for new posts, academic and professional services, and we got them. So I think we're really well positioned to go into this next phase of growth. So we haven't had any, as far as I know, any submitted questions through the survey route. I don't know if that's good or bad. Everybody seems content, nothing that they want to raise. But would anybody like to ask any further questions at this point, or respond to anything that Gail or Louise or Tom and I have said? I'm not seeing any hands up. If you've got your hand up and I can't see it, can you just Shayan, please? Are you able to hang on, let me see. You should be able to. Yeah, I'm not seeing any problems with the mic from this side. Do you want to put your question
Try again.
in
I've changed the settings.
Okay.
Okay, that's better now. Thank you. Thank you, Sally. I just wanted to follow on in terms of, like you said, in terms of being cautious with spending in the next 2 years, and obviously concerns in terms of those on research-only posts, and how is there support for them to transition to core posts? In terms of those that got the core posts that you are referring to, how many of them were internal research only that progressed to core posts? Is there, what's the university strategy on that? And also, even if you're going for fellowships and all of that, the fellowship bodies want specific commitments. So how do we balance that in the current climate? So that's just my question.
Two really good questions, Shayan. Thank you. So firstly, a number of those new core posts were filled by people that we had been growing, that have come out of our pipeline. Some of them have been here as undergraduates and have stayed with us. And that's really good to see. And we hope that within a couple of years, we will be back to that position of having core posts so that we can give opportunities, because we spend a lot of time obviously supporting people, early career academics, and we want to see them stay with us as long as they want to. In terms of how we will support fellowship applications, and yes, there is usually a requirement if we're putting in fellowship applications that we will make a comment or a statement about what we will do for longer term support for the individuals. And at the moment, the phrasing that we are being asked to use across the university is that we will look at providing permanent posts if there is appropriate budget support at the point at which the fellowship is completed. But we're not in a position to make any commitments at this stage. And sadly, that is the same across most universities in the sector at the moment. I think, Mark, you were next, please. Got another problem with the audio. Hang on.
No, my microphone's working now. So sorry, Sally, just in response to what you said, recently an advanced fellowship failed because that was what was written in the response letter was because they didn't believe there was institutional support. So it's one of those ones that I'm not quite sure how that wording's going to fit with what the NIHR particularly are interested in terms of that future role. But again, if you're saying that everybody's going to do it, then everybody's in the same boat. So
yeah,
I think it's something NIHR.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the full details of that NIHR Advanced Fellowship and the reason why it failed, but I don't think it would have been purely on that one element.
Not so, but it was mentioned in their response letter. So that was the sort of the key bit with it. My little bit of advice from experience is probably to just ask the NIHR Academy some clarifications. If the climate has changed, they are useful to have the conversation with. So my advice always is to contact them, somebody to speak to them. Yep.
Yeah, that's good advice. Thanks, Mark. Sophie.
Oh, does that work straight away?
Yes.
I was going to reflect on the same thing. I guess my anxiety about that phrasing in terms of how it will be perceived from funders. But a follow-up question was about the really good development to sort of move towards team science approaches in terms of getting bigger grants collaboratively, but the additional need to still try and seek money in addition. In addition, you're like I wasn't clear on what you meant when you just talked about that. Is that just is that about internal pots, like small pots of money, or also sort of large, I don't know, individual grants or fellowships as well as?
Yeah, thanks, Sophie. I moved over quite quickly on that. I think there is increasingly an expectation, and I think it's an appropriate one, that there are significant external funding sources out there. That if you are in a core academic T&R post, that you should not just be reliant on the university paying your salary, but you should be looking to attract some external income to support your post. There are lots of support mechanisms out there to enable you to write grant applications and to write successful grant applications. We have professional grant writers that you can access as well. So that is something that I think we haven't really been pushing that up until now, but I think we will be looking increasingly to people putting in grant applications on a regular basis. And we know that not every application is going to be successful, but we do know that, you know, if you're not in it, you won't win it. And we do need to generate that external income. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Okay, Sarah.
Thanks, Sally. It's a question really for Gail about diversity. So I attended the Healthy City Design Congress that came out to Liverpool last month again, and one person brought up the fact that there's lots of accommodation in Liverpool is being designed for single students to have apartments on their own. And I think there's a wider question about that changing the fabric of our city and not having intergenerational homes and family houses and things. but specifically for a student that I have experience with, he's been really struggling with finding accommodation as part of a married couple, and the University of Liverpool accommodation is just for single sharer students, and they've directed people onto the Liverpool student homes, and the university accommodation thinks they're having success there, but I've tried it and my students tried it as well, and they haven't had success there. So there is a real dearth of family accommodation at the University of Liverpool. And I know Reading, where I went, they had married and a small family accommodation, and at Queen's University in Belfast they have that too. So I was wondering how we can address that at the University of Liverpool.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and there's certainly work that can be done in terms of improving the PGR academic experience as well as the broader student experience. And that work has actually started. So I've been part of a faculty group where you may have seen that we've recently done a faculty survey, again, to protect anonymity. That's why we're not doing it at the institute level, to look at some of the particularly EDI issues that impact on that PGR experience. And we're in the process of developing a number of actions that we can take forward from that, some being at departmental or institute or faculty level, but also a number of broader recommendations for the university. And I'd be happy to take that point forward. So I can't speak to how the university might be able to address that accommodation, but I'm more than happy to take that forward and incorporate it as part of that work.
Thanks, Gail.
Do we have any other questions before we close? Okay, I'm conscious we have got a little bit of time left in this slot. Tom's proposed that maybe we run Paul's video for those who want to see it now, but I think we will also make it available so that people can watch it at a later point. If people are happy to do that, if there's no more issues that you'd like to discuss. Thank you all very much for joining us. I hope you found it helpful just to have some indications of where we are as a university, but most importantly, as an institute. And as always, if there's anything that you would like to discuss with me on a one-to-one basis, then please do let me know. And I will also be doing some drop-ins around the various institute buildings in the next 2 or 3 weeks leading up to the Christmas break. So I think, Kat, could you play the video and then people can either decide to watch it now or they can come and watch it on the recorded version later. And thank you very much, everyone.
Hi, everyone. This is a short video in which I'm going to give you an update as to where I'm up to with the Teach Across initiative. I'm sorry I can't be there today. Unfortunately, I'm really sorry to say that I'm on my way to Palmer, where it's 21 degrees, but we all have crosses to bear. Where I'm up to in Teach Across. So the ultimate goals of this is to ensure equitable teaching loads across the institute in line with contractual expectations. So we're talking about 20% of time or 330 hours a year for T&R staff. They should also share some expertise, give the best student experience, and reduce some duplication of effort. There's probably a lot of resources floating around that can be easily used by others, and lectures people are well placed to deliver that they could be easily delivered across other departments, and so on. Furthermore, hopefully this will also have some extra consequences as well, increase some collaboration, working relationships, and also help us identify where there's knowledge or skills lacking across IPH. The process in which I'm doing this is to use, initially it's going to be using summative to identify possible capacity. From there, there'll be discussions with heads of departments, heads of school, and for any responsibilities not present on summative. I know it's not a perfect system, I'll come on to that in a minute. Then there'll be meetings with individuals identified, both those who have capacity and those who need help. And then hopefully there'll be a linking of individuals across the schools/departments. So far, all the summative data for every member of staff, both T&R and TNS, has been processed across all of IPH. So I've gone through absolutely everybody. And then on a department/school basis, teaching loads have just been flagged more just for my ease of seeing numbers. I'll flag those teaching less than 20% as yellow, less than 15% as orange, and then less than 10% as red. So you can just see individuals clearly of different levels of teaching load. And what the basic, and it is basic data, what the basic summative data shows is there is a clear teaching load disparity across IPH. And because I like doing this type of thing, here is a graph showing this data. So we've got box plots for the different departments with every member of staff's actually plotted on it as well. And the turquoise line I've added there is 20% teaching. So as you can see in the School of Health Sciences and the Department of Psychology, people are teaching well beyond, in general, overall, well beyond that 20% limit. And then in other departments, it's quite a bit under. For primary care and mental health, I need some more detailed discussions about that. There's a lot of information that is not on summative there, so it's just going to be a slightly more complicated process for them. So anyone in primary care and mental health, don't worry, that's not very representative, but I am a bit more competent in the other data, but I'll come on to the details in a moment. So you can see there's quite a big difference here, and it's the programs with the big undergraduate courses there. Now, some of you in the room are probably thinking, haha, but they have lots of TNS staff. So TNS staff should be teaching more, and that is, of course, true. But if I filter out the TNS staff, we still see the same pattern of things. So this is just TNR staff in these departments. And as you can see, there is still quite a substantial disparity here. So we're looking at TNR staff in the School of Health Sciences still teaching way beyond that 20%. You know, there's multiple of them teaching 75, 80, over 100% of the time. We see a similar but not as an extreme pattern in psychology as well. And we do also, it is worth noting, we do see people in the other departments teaching well beyond the 20% as well. So you see there is some disparities in teaching. And, you know, if we've got members of staff in the School of Health Sciences who are going for confirmation of appointment on TNR contracts and they're teaching 75% of the time or more, it's not particularly fair on those individuals because they're getting judged on a TNR basis. However, I know summative is not perfect, so I have discussed with all individuals on the lists with heads of departments, that's head of school, barring one department so far. So everybody's been discussed, so there's been clear mitigations identified. So some people are tenure track fellows, returning from extended leave, and there's lots of things that are not included on summative. So everybody has been gone through. And this has identified individuals who can be contacted for a discussion about skills and where they can assist across IPH. And emails have gone out to all those individuals identified so far. I've also did the big skills survey as well. We've got 95 people who completed that. So thank you, anyone in the room who has completed it, and a pox on you if you haven't. This is just going to be used in discussions. So when I'm identifying those with capacity, I can get an idea of the type of things they can do just to streamline the process as well. And it's also going to be used to provide a database of skills and resources for teaching and collaboration and research as well. So I do have this large database, and I may send the link out again in the future, just so it can get more people completing it. So I also have that database. I've also, there's a word cloud of the type of research skills that people have. I'm not a big fan of word clouds, but now I've taught myself how to do it because I've got to get something fun out of this as well. So there you go. I should have stripped the word data out, obviously, there, but you live and learn. So we can see quite a range of skills that people are talking about having across the Institute. Anyway, the biggest needs, as I say, the biggest requirements for help are in the School of Health Sciences. And these programs are really intensive on staff. So, you know, if you look at nursing, there's a huge amount of hours of theoretical teaching practice needed. And the thing is, it's understood that many of these aspects need to be run by very specific specialists. I'm not expecting people from health data science to start doing physiotherapy modules and stuff like that. It's what I'm going to be trying to do now. We're speaking with people from the School of Health Sciences, is identifying areas where people can assist. And the most likely area of that is these modules with substantive research components where people are able to contribute to that. And although there will be some teaching here, and that certainly helps, this teaching doesn't make up large amounts of these huge amounts of time that people in the School of Health Sciences in particular are spending on teaching, the 75% of the time. So there may be things like module coordination roles are probably going to be needed at some point, something that really takes some pressure off people. However, this is all currently under discussion. So right now, when talking with individuals identified, people being emailed, and we're going to set up meetings, and hopefully that means soon we can start formalizing links across departments and enable people to talk about contributions across modules with each other. And with any luck, we can help develop this equitable teaching and have a good experience for both the staff and also the students taking part. And that's it. And of course, if you can direct your hate mail directly to me, and that's it. I'm not off to sit on a sun lounger. I have work to do, but thank you.
Bye, everybody. See you next year for another forum.